and I truly do now appreciate and understand why people call fighting cancer like a battle or a war, because it
Mhm.
really is. And there are casualties, and
Mm.
just like in real war, there, obviously people die, but also people get injured or wounded. And
Right.
so you can win one battle, and the next time you go back to the front lines, and you're in the foxhole, you can take shrapnel and do different things. So in my case, um, I won the brain battle, but then this vision thing, for whatever reason, hit. And so I still have this day. It took about 6 weeks for them to diagnose it, but ultimately they diagnosed as optic nerve damage, which for all the eye experts out there, you'll know that that's not your eye itself, but it's the cords that go from your eye to your brain, that get affected. So many people who have strokes or micro seizures, they do lose their sight, because of that lack of oxygen or blood flow to the brain. And so that's what they ultimately diagnosed it as. So as I speak here today, I can, like I said, the condition hasn't changed. It's nothing that glasses, or there's no surgery because it's not the eyes they can fix. So I am still in this state of, horrible vision where I can't drive. I can see you, but it's like, again, it's like my eyes just have this permanent double dose of dilation drops in them. As I wrote my book, I literally used writing the book. When I lost my sight, I did go, that was the first time I had to actually take time off from work, because you would think the cancer would have been the thing that would have derailed my career. It was actually the vision that actually put a speed bump in my career, because it was just, when this vision thing first, now I'm kind of used to it. It's my new normal. But when it first happened, it was just like, I thought my life was, it was almost worse than the cancer, because it's just,
Mm.
it was so scary. I couldn't see or do anything. And so I pulled the cord on short term. I called my boss, Andrew Levy, the CEO of Avello. First time I've ever quit anything, and I didn't really quit, but I told I'm just, for the team, I'm pulling the emergency cord and going to bench myself, coach, for a couple months, just to kind of, recondition myself and figure out how I can, like, figure out A, what this thing is with the vision, because we didn't know at the time, and B, figure out how I can kind of get myself back in playing condition. And so that's what I did over 3 months. I ended up, the way it was kind of occupational and mental therapy for me. I ended up writing the book, because I had nothing else to do when you're on short-term disability, and my company respected this. I was looking for things to do. I was hoping they'd call me to ask me to write a speech or do something, but legally, they're just not allowed to. They check in to see, they were all great. They check in to see how I was doing, emotionally and personally, but they couldn't give me anything to do. And I couldn't raise my hand and say, coach, give me put me back in the game.
Just
So
a couple things, yeah. And
yeah,
I
so I,
think just that's something really notable to share. You're going through all this, and having known you prior to this, what's really striking and what really to me shows how authentic you really are is like, even before you were always, I feel like, very motivational, positive. I remember even you telling me, like, I told you I was working on this book, but I wasn't sure because it's really for me and it's like my private stuff. And you're like, just write an article on LinkedIn for Father's Day. And I'm like, I can't, I don't want. And you were just very like, put yourself out there. And that's even how I was gravitated to you to begin with. You put something out there on LinkedIn, and you wrote about going to Africa, and you wrote about like that you pretty much just dropped what you were doing, went on this adventure, and you were encouraging people to explore different paths. And we obviously went to New House, so we had that in common. And I just bring it up to say that having known you, and my impression and how I met you was through you inspiring me and actually sharing authentically. It's just amazing because now you had this hardship, and I feel like you're even more inspiring and even more motivational and even more looking for the bright side of things, but not in a way that's this whole toxic positivity that people find very upsetting, which I understand. It's you also acknowledge the hardships, like you embrace the hardships of it, and I think that's just really just something to note for people that don't really know you.
yeah. Well, that's what, like I said, I wanted to, it's kind of the peak of my career, and still, like, not ready for retirement. And so I used the 3 months to really just, like I said, to write the book. And so it was a chance for me to learn how to use the keyboard commands to zoom in, to use dictation technology, to use how I'd never actually sent anyone a voice text message before. I know that's how you and I communicate a lot.
Hmm.
There were a lot of tools that were available that I'm glad are available.
Yeah, it's pretty
The computer and
incredible.
technology is my friend. I don't know how, if this had
True,
happened to me 20 years ago, I literally don't know, I
true.
would have figured out. I'm a resourceful guy, so I probably would have figured out whatever tools were available at the time, how
Yeah,
to
something.
reinvent myself. But I do feel very grateful and blessed that like we do have the technologies. A lot of people criticize technology, but
The audio messaging, the voice text, yeah, it really is great.
yeah. So, and so that was able, so I was able to kind of figure out how to kind of I learned how to breathe. I learned how to walk. I learned how to ride a bike again, essentially, in terms of the skills I needed to do my job through the book. And then when time came to 3 months later, decide whether I was going to jump back in the field and go back into the game full time or stay on long-term disability or something. I felt like I needed to prove to myself and the world that I could do this both for myself, and I wanted to be an example to others because again, I want others to know who may face this. I'm not the only one that's going to face this kind of debilitating situation. That like a good friend of mine, Doug Camp, who was one of my camp counselors 30 years ago, who came out of the woodworks during this whole thing. Reminded he went blind as well,
Oh my
just
gosh.
where they had these parallel lives. But his happened to maybe about 10 years ago. He's a financial accountant, and he goes, one of my doctors told me very early on when I was kind of distressed about this whole situation. He goes, Doug, you've lost your vision, but you haven't lost your mind. And people are hiring you and like you and are interested in you and working with you because of your mind, not because of your eyes. And so,
Mhm.
and a good reminder that, even though you kind of I would sink into my sheets some nights, just devastated. I'd remind myself, I'd rather be alive and talking today, Rachel, than be 6 feet under and have 20/20 vision. But in many ways, your setback um, is your comeback, or your setback is your tailwind to your comeback. I mean, I'd always thought of writing a book, but I never really had the right narrative or had the right plot. And look, I would love to have my eyesight back. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but and I'd reverse all this if I could. But you know what? In so many ways, my setback, this vision loss and the cancer, has been the tailwind that is allowing me to talk to you and so many other people. And it brings me so much joy just to have conversations like this. And I know the book is going to create this platform for having, just multiplying all these